As much as I love Stuart Semple products, he seems to only cater to painters. If only he gave some attention to us inker. Ooh. I think he just did. Go ahead and roll that awesome intro. What's up guys, I'm J-Rod of BLink, and today we're taking a look at Stuart Semple's BLink the Blackest Black ink. Now if you guys don't know who Stuart Semple is, go ahead and check out my Black 3.0 review, along with my lit review as I go more in depth about him and his company, but essentially he makes high quality art products that are some world record setters. He makes the world's goldest paint, most mirror paint, most black mirror paint, the world's blackest paint, most glowest pigment, world's pinkest paint, and now the darkest ink. I do love a lot of his products, but they are heavy paint themed, so when I found out he was making ink, you know your boy wanted to get involved, and unfortunately I missed the registration date for that. But as soon as it came out, you knew I ordered it and it came in quick. One thing I love about Stuart Semple's products is they're of incredible high quality and of a good price, as BLink sells for $50.99 for 1 fluid ounce of ink, which does sound expensive, yes, but we're talking about the blackest black ink, and I'm really curious to see what kind of quality this ink has, especially compared to his other products in the past. Now that $50.99 price range is including tax but does not include shipping, which on his website for orders $100 or more, you do get free shipping, so that's nice. Unfortunately, I didn't have $100 to spend, so I ended up paying about $25.99 for everything. Some things to list about BLink before we get into is that it's bleed proof, waterproof, dip proof, mega matte, and it's also stupidly black. And to quote the website itself, we wanted to take all we learned in making the world's most potent blacks and make us the ultimate black ink for your work. Thanks to over the 1,000 artists who have participated in the beta test of BLink, we delight to say that we think we've made the ultimate black ink and we are ready to share it with all artists. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those artists. This stuff will be amazing for pen and ink work, calligraphy, paint markers, brush pens, basically anything you use black for, it should get upgraded with this. So I'm very curious to see how true that claim is. And lastly, I love this picture on the website. Like, this dude sacrificed his hand for that picture because that stuff is probably not coming off anytime soon. And one more thing I want to highlight about this thing, which I really do appreciate, is that despite this coming in a glass inkwell, you do not have to worry about that thing coming in cracked because this thing is wrapped and layered good. You do not have to worry about this thing coming in broken because you can bust this thing open and get that fresh ink smell. Taking a closer look at the inkwell, I absolutely love this. It's high quality, thick glass that looks good. You got Stuart Semple BLink 30 milliliters, some stuff on the back, just mostly some warning. I will give this a good shake. Plastic ink top here, which I do prefer over a eyedropper. I'm sorry guys, I still do. And it kind of reminds me of my Winsor&Newton inks that I love so much. This just looks cool and high quality though. I will admit, I don't know why this is so thick on the bottom. Is that for safety in case you drop it? Because I felt like you could put a little more ink in there or just make that a little smaller. I know, little minor complaint, but still absolutely love the look and feel of this. Let's go ahead and break out our sketchbook to do a good in-depth test on it. Now hold up, I can't just test it in a normal mixed media sketchbook. No. We have to do something a little special for this. Now I decided to make a quick swatch list of both my favorite inks and the ones that I think are the most common to the public that I think would be a good comparison for BLink to see how dark it really is. Starting with my personal favorite, we have Winsor&Newton, De La Roni Acrylic FW, Zig's Black Ink Cartoonist, Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Matte, Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star HULKBUSTER, Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay Black Ink, Liquitex Professional Acrylic Ink Black Carbon, Speedball Super Black, and this last little bit, Higgins. Higgins is definitely not going to be a comparison, but since a lot of people use it, I decided to compare it. This whole big spot is for BLink, and of course we got Black 3.0 right here, looking all magically dark as it does. So I'm really curious to see how that actually compares to Black 3.0. I think it's going to be amazing to see the two next to each other. Ooh, that feels smooth. That is a smooth, high quality ink. When you've reviewed and tested as many inks as I have, you get a feeling for a smooth ink, and this is one that is smooth. Very nice. And this is of course Bristol board, so it's taking the ink very well. Of course I am noticing a little bit of a dip off here, but I'm not fully dipping my ink pen because I'm not 100% sure where the actual line is and I don't want to over dip, but we can really get some good lines. Very smooth, very nice. I like this. We're getting some really good width control with this. I really do like this. Let's go ahead and do our quick nib test, do our brush test. Of course, we're going to compare it to everything else here on the actual page. Very nice. Again, we're getting some really good smooth ink and some good lines. Oops, I did not mean to do that. This is not bad at all. It's very smooth. I can definitely feel the quality of the ink. Again, it's something you really become accustomed to when you test as many inks as I have and you've done a lot of ink work. So you can really get a feel for an ink when you first put it down on the page. And here I'm feeling it. I'm really getting those high points. I'm really getting a lot of line variation. I know I need to actually clean this nib, so that's why I'm having a little trouble with it. But no, I really do like it. I can't wait to see it actually dry so we can compare how dark it is to the other inks present. And normally with our brush test we use this cheap Dollar Tree brush, but I want to do something a little different. I'm going to actually use my Creative Mark Artist Product brush. This is a round 3 and is currently my most favorite brush I use. And ooh, that's nice. That is nice. I like that. Now, it is a little gray here. I think maybe I need to wet my brush a little bit more. Let's go in and see if that helps. No, that is not the case. This is definitely... I don't like that. I'm gonna be real. You see how gray that is? So do I have to layer it? I want to highlight, I have not actually watched a review of this as I wanted my first impressions to be my own. And right now, I have to say I'm a little disappointed with it with the brush because, oh boy, this is, I want to get that first kind of layer, the nice solid black. It looks like I'm gonna have to fight for it. Now, it is a little more apparent how gray it is on actual camera than it is in person. In person, it is a little darker. So it does seem like it's an ink that's really thin and we're gonna get some streaking. So right away, you could tell in the tone of my voice, I'm a little disappointed as I was hoping for something that I wouldn't have that problem, but maybe this was engineered more for the actual pen itself. It did highlight the pen more than it did the brush. Either way, I do think that is a little disappointing. So as you can see, we're getting this solid black, and then when we start to actually work it and get it to fill in the areas, we get this ugly gray. I mean, it's not ugly, it's just a little disappointing for me. So you can see right there. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and do a few layers and we'll let it dry. Already from what I see, it's definitely not going to be darker than Black 3.0. And that was something that I was really kind of hoping that it'd be on par with that, because one thing I didn't like about Black 3.0, because it was a paint, you couldn't really use it with a dip pen to get really good fine dark lines. And that's okay, you know, it is a paint, it's not an ink, but that is a little disappointing. So here, I was hoping we could get those really good fine lines and then go in with Black 3.0 and maybe, you know, they'd be the same, but either way, we could still do some stuff. Ooh, okay, this is what I was expecting right here. Going over it again with a second layer. That's the darkness I was expecting. That was the black I was really looking forward to getting. Now, you guys know me, and if you watch my Higgins review, you would know that I love an ink that I can go in once and get that strong 100% black. I absolutely love and adore the fact that with ink, you can get 100% black, and traditionally, you can get it very easily. It doesn't take a lot of layering, again, unless you use Higgins. That is a layering ink that is far more in tune for watercolor style, but I personally love the fact that I can create a solid black, and that's what I look for in my art. I go for that 100% black, I go for that 100% white, and then I find my middle area, and I absolutely love being able to just get that 100% black right from the start. And I'm noticing here that the second I go over with that second layer, I'm getting that black that I like. So while I do think it's a little disappointing, hear me out, that I have to go over an area twice or more to get that even black coating that I want, I do think that the black we're getting here is really good. It's still wet, so it still needs time to dry. I do kind of like the fact that it's only 2 layers. With Higgins, I had the problem that I had to constantly work to get that black, and it seemed like it would take 9, 10, 11, a million layers to get that black. But here, the fact that we got 2 tones right off the bat very easily, I like that more than Higgins because it's less of a fight, but it also allows for a little bit more stuff we can do in the illustration part, and I do like that. So now that we put our second layer, that is the black I was expecting from just doing it once with the brush. Let's go ahead and just do a quick little, there you go. It is smooth. Honestly, one of the smoothest inks I have ever used, but I wish that I could keep that consistent black more when you're actually using the brush. You don't have to go over the area again like this. I would prefer that. But either way, it is very, very dark. We're going to just kind of fill in some of these spots that are shining through, and then we will let this dry to do our comparison. Now, the blackest ink on this page is going to be the Winsor & Newton and the actual Speedball Super Black, which both, by the way, are interesting, as the Winsor & Newton one sells for $9.99 for 1 fluid ounce, and the Speedball sells for $9.99 for 2 fluid ounces. So that's kind of interesting, and I think that is a good, solid base. And let's go ahead and give this time to dry, and we're going to check on it. 5 minutes later. Alright, I'm back, and this stuff dries incredibly quickly. I'm really impressed by its dry time, and now that it's actually dried and said and done, this stuff is very dark. Like, I'm very surprised. Now, one thing to keep in mind is, of course, I mentioned the studio lights, so let's go ahead and lower this to a more natural kind of ambient level. There we go. This is a more natural level. This is actually the normal light level that's in my room, of course, without the studio lights on, and yeah, this stuff looks even more amazing. It is very dark, but I have to say, when you actually compare it to the other inks right here, I did do a little swatch test, it really does stand out. It is more dark, but I wouldn't say it's catastrophically more dark. Like, for that, I would have to say that Black 3.0 is, of course, the darkest on this actual paper. This is what I was expecting with this ink, something around this level, but, you know, really in a natural lighting level, it does look really, really nice. But let's go ahead and compare each one. Winsor&Newton does look pretty close, however, BLink is slightly closer. J.L.Roni Acrylic W is pretty dark, but in person, it actually isn't as dark as the actual sample here. Zig's Black Cartoonist ink is a little off in terms of the black. While the actual richness is there, the darkness isn't, if that makes sense. Dr. P.H.Martin's Black Star Matte ink is nowhere near as close. There's far more streaking in here than the actual sample, or even to the larger one down here, and it's just not as dark. Dr. P.H.Martin's Black Star H.A.M.B.E.R ink, same thing. It's also the glossier one, so there's a little bit of a gloss to it that's more apparent in person. The Dr. P.H.Martin's Bombay ink, basically the most basic ink, has less streaking but doesn't come close to its actual darkness. Liquitex Professional Acrylic ink actually has a bit of a fade here, and I'm noticing that it's not as consistently dark as the actual BLink ink. Speedball Super Black is honestly the second closest next to Winsor&Newton, and I am really blown away by how close this is, but it's not quite there. And Higgins, and there was no chance this thing would actually come even remotely close. Seriously, I just put this in here because I knew someone would complain. And lastly, Black 3.0. Now here is a good example of what I was talking about. They're close, but not quite, and it's pretty apparent when you put them next to each other. I really was expecting something of this quality or along this line with BLink. I am impressed with the actual darkness that it has, but oh boy, was I expecting a little bit more. Now this ink is really dark, and it is more darker than all the inks we have swatched. Let's test some of the other features. It's supposed to be bleed proof, waterproof, dip proof, mega matte, and stupidly black. Let's go ahead and test the smudge proof and the waterproof part. Winsor&Newton, no smudge. J.L.Roni Acrylic FW, no smudge. Zig's Cartoonist Black, no smudge. Dr. P.H.Martin's Black Star Matte, yep, smudge. Dr. P.H.Martin's Black Star H.A.M.B.E.R, yep, smudge. Let's do Dr. P.H.Martin's Bombay Black ink. A little smudge. The Liquitex Professional Acrylic ink. Kind of felt like it's smudged. My finger does look a little darker. Speedball Super Black. Actually, not that much. Kind of impressed. And lastly, Higgins. Hey, didn't smudge. That's something I can give Higgins. And now BLink. Dude, I really don't even feel anything. Like, with some of these, I could feel a little bit of it, but this, that's nice. I like that. That is definitely smudge proof. Let's go ahead and do our water test. I just realized I didn't actually change the water, so it's still the dirty one from the ink test. I'm gonna go fix that real quick. Okay, I got fresh, clean water. Let's do this again, because I know Winsor&Newton is way more waterproof than that. And it is. There you go. J.L.Roni Acrylic FW. Nope. Zig's Cartoonist. Nope. Dr. P.H.Martin's. Yeah, both are a no. It's a no. Dr. P.H.Martin's Bombay. Actually, not that bad. This one did pretty good, just a little bit. It looks like it's mostly from the pen when compared to the other ones, which is more concentrated around the actual ink itself. Liquitex Acrylic ink. Again, not too bad, but we did get a little bit of bleeding here from the actual text itself. Speedball. Hey, Speedball held its own. Yeah, it's not bad. And lastly, Higgins. Yep, Higgins did pretty good too. I'm really curious to see how BLink is actually going to hold up against this. Hey, look at that. We got some bleeding. Look at that. Waterproof. Well, I'm gonna be fair here. I had to literally scrub it with the brush to get this. This is waterproof, okay? This, what I'm doing here, this where I'm actually getting a wet brush and just pulling on it like this is an extreme test that you're really not gonna ever do in an actual inking situation. At least I've never had to do that. Maybe in watercolor you might do this, but in my opinion, this is waterproof. It was smudge proof, it was waterproof, and I will give it that because, oh boy, did I have to scrub to get that pigment to bleed like that. Because look at this, this is nice, but when I really start scrubbing, you can see it starts to fade. But any ink, even my favorite inks like Winsor & Newton, are going to do that. So I'm gonna give this thing a check on the waterproof, and I'm gonna also give it a check on the bleed proof and scuff proof, because that's actually really impressive. So let's go ahead and take a look at the illustration we'll be doing, because I'm very excited for this. Today's illustration is something very special to me, as it's not just another illustration of Wrath, the superhero we created for the channel and the upcoming comic book I'm working on, but it's actually a redraw. As about a year ago, I did a drawing where I finally felt like I captured the look, the feel, the art style, and the design of Wrath. All the tones that I was going for my comic, I felt like I captured in this one piece of art that I've actually made the cover art of my pitch Bible. So I figured a year later, with my skills honed and my artistic sense changing and evolving, becoming just more matured and stronger, I would redraw that, and the only ink that I think would work for this outside my normal Winsor & Newton would be BLink. So let's go ahead and roll that super time lapse. Inking this piece was a fun and interesting challenge. Now, normally I usually film 3 videos a day on my film days, but unfortunately I was only able to actually film 2, and that's because of how long this one illustration took and how long this video was. And I'm not complaining. I had a blast filming this video and actually testing this ink, and the darkest dark ink is amazing. BLink is a high quality ink for sure, and I really enjoyed making this illustration. I designed this piece so that it could even be in solid black and still tell where everything is, so I decided to take advantage of this. Normally in my art you can find heavy ink washes, and here there are none. And that's because I didn't want to water down the ink. I simply wanted to present it as dark as it could be, and unfortunately that did require a bit of layering. I only used 3 brushes and a quill pen to do all of the artwork in here, and that's because I actually just really enjoyed the process. Now yes, the ink was time consuming to get it consistent, as there were times I had to go over it a few times. It was that streaking issue I had, but after I did those 2 layers, it was really good, and I only had to do small minor touch-ups here and there. The ink flows great, and when it came to actually filling in areas with the brush, I really enjoyed it. In the test, it didn't give a good strong vibe, but when it came to the illustration, it was easy to adjust to, and I really loved using it. I really didn't even have to switch out my brush too much, really just for bigger areas and from small areas such as the hands and the face. But for the rest of it, was pretty much done with my normal round 3. When it came to actually doing the smoke effect, I decided to actually use Black 3.0. I know this was meant to be more of an ink, but I still wanted to use the paint as it would create a fun contrast. Seeing how different the 2 were in the test showed that they could complement each other very well and still have a very fun dark theme. The white parts are 100% white, and I love it. It's very popping and really catches your eye. And I also did something very unique with this piece, as I did 2 splatter effects, one with normal black ink and the other with white ink. Something I've never done before. I've actually never mixed the 2 together, so it was really fun to do. I think it works to create that amber smoke effect, and you could even view it as rain or snow. While St. the city that Wrath lives in, is in Florida, you could argue that it's in a part of Florida that could allow snow, so there you go. But enough about my fictional characters. The ink itself is nice. I really like it. I think it's very smooth, very fun to use, very intuitive, and it is very high quality. I didn't feel like I was stressing out and had trouble controlling it with a brush. I felt like my lines were very strong and great when it came to my actual line art, and on top of that, I think it's a very strong, very matte black. But with that said, in all honesty, if I switched it with a different ink, would you really have noticed? I mean, in person, it is very apparent how dark the actual ink is, don't get me wrong, but it's not incredibly noticeable. And that's something I really had to be honest with myself and notice. I tried to stay very positive, and it is darker than any other ink I have. It does complement really well with Black 3.0. I think it looks great, and if I was to actually do an ink wash for that smoke effect, I don't think the piece would have been as strong or as good as it could have been. That solid black that Black 3.0 is just so powerful and overwhelming. It's amazing, and I love it. And I think maybe, just maybe, that's what I was really deep down hoping for when it came to BLink. I really did think that BLink would be like that, but in liquid form, and for dip pens, and for brushes, and for things like that, and I just think that's unfair to actually assume an ink to be that good. And I'm not dissing this ink. It is really good. It's high quality ink. I just think maybe I personally, and maybe many others, expected too much from it, comparing it to Black 3.0, the paint. But with all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual finished piece in all its finished glory. And we're done, and guys, I love how this piece came out. This is one of my favorite pieces I've done this entire year, probably in the last 2 years. It's one of those pieces that just stands out among my others. If I was to put this in my portfolio, it would stand out among all the other unique pieces, and it's part of what went into it, some of the unique techniques, some of the unique actual art supplies. You know, this isn't just top 10, this is, in my opinion, top 3 easily of the year. Some of my favorite work that I've done. And if you guys like it, is available for my ArtStation account for a $1 digital download. It's that first link in the description down below, and it really does help the channel out. But let's go ahead and put the piece to the side and talk about BLink itself as I give my final verdict. Inking with BLink is one of those experiences that I really did like, and I love this product. It's extremely high quality and affordable for the amount of quality that's there. It's very smooth, one of the smoothest inks I have ever used. Works great with a dip pen, a quill nib, and a brush, and I love the fact that I can actually have this super dark ink. It is the blackest ink I've ever used. However, when it comes to rating ink, I have to look at what this ink offers compared to other inks out on the market, along with its own price range, and BLink has a few things going against it. For one, like I mentioned in the B footage, but I think it bears repeating, I did personally think this would just be an ink version of Black 3.0, and it was kind of an unfair comparison that I had mentally built up for myself when I found out about this, and it was just wrong. So I just want to say that I'm not actually going to rate it based off of my comparisons to Black 3.0. I'm going to rate it as an ink, not really as a magical paint that the Black 3.0 is, because that thing is just pure witchcraft magic. Black 3.0 is more expensive. I'm going to compare it to both Winsor & Newton and Speedball Super Black. Both of those inks cost about $9.99 for 1 fluid ounce for Winsor & Newton and 2 for Speedball. That's a pretty good ink, and they were the closest in comparison to BLink. BLink is $15.99, and we're not going to include shipping, as you could probably order $100 worth of stuff to get the free shipping, so let's not put that in the equation. I would say that BLink is about 25% darker than both Winsor & Newton and Super Black, and that is a big 25% difference. It's apparent both in person and on camera, which is pretty awesome, but at the end of the day, do you think that 25% darker is worth the $6 extra? In my opinion, take consideration the fact that this is a Stuart Semple product. It's extremely high quality, very smooth, and while yes, I do have problems with those layering issues, as I've mentioned before, especially in my Higgins review, this is not the worst offender of that, and it's pretty easy and fun to use. I have to say that I personally, I can justify that. Now, is this going to be my everyday ink for everything I do? I don't think so. But is it going to be a special ink that I'm going to use wisely and incorporate very strategically into artwork going in the future? Heck yeah. It's a very fun product that I'm looking past it not as a gimmick, but as something I can keep permanently in my artistic toolbox. And to be honest, that's what I think BLink does. It's not a gimmick. It goes beyond that, and it's just simply a very high quality, somewhat more expensive ink that happens to be the Blackest Black ink, and that happens to be its marketing and its whole name thing. I like this ink. I think it's really good, but is it your everyday ink? Should it be your everyday ink? No. I still personally have to recommend both Winsor & Newton and Speedball more. I think they both offer something that's more affordable, more easy to access for people than BLink. So I'm actually going to rate this thing on my scale of 1 to 10 an 8. It is a solid ink, super high quality, but pricey. And if you can justify the price, I heavily recommend to pick it up. And I don't know if I mentioned in the video before, but the link both to BLink and Culture Hustle, along with Stuart Semple's personal YouTube channel, is in the description down below, so you can check him out and support him, because this dude makes some of the best art stuff I've seen, and I can't wait to pick up more of his products, because every time I picked one up, I was always blown away by the quality. BLink is no exception. It is a phenomenal product that I do recommend. But that's my opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' in the comment section down below. Do you think that I rated BLink too low or too high? Have you used it, and what do you think of it? Along with what you guys think of the drawing I did, areas that you like, and areas that you think I can improve on. I love your guys' feedback because it makes me a better artist. And while you're down there, leave a comment on all this stuff. Go ahead and tell me what you guys want to see us do next. Do you want to see us do some art challenges, more ink reviews, or just do some inking tutorials? I'm up for all of them, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Subscribe to the channel for more art and animation based content, and remember, I'm J.Rod at BLink the Blackest Black. I draw power in my own soul, and yes, I even ink in the blackest black ink.